watching the tide roll away, just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time.
Maritime Matters is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It
Force.
is very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
And pleasant good evening to you, our valued listening audience. Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain, our producer for tonight's show, the one and only Mr. Sensational himself, Mr. Craig Gibson. We coming to you live via Love and 97 FM. This is Tuesday, the 18th day of March, 2025. And if it's a Tuesday, you know the deal. It's maritime. Tick, 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 tick. Matters. We encourage that if you're driving and tuning in with us, please do so cautiously and ensure to take your time in getting wherever it is you are trying to get safely. As the saying goes, drive to arrive alive. Our sponsors for tonight's show, same old two, 101 Pharmacy and also Island Care Pharmacy. For all your medication needs, check out my little cousin Shantia McBride and her lovely team at 101 Pharmacy in Nassau, and of course Island Care Pharmacy in the land of Freeport, Grand Bahama. Fill your prescription at the store or send your refills via the online site 101pharmacy.com. That's 101 Pharmacy, all lowercase, all one word, .com. The three locations are East Street South. That's where Joy, the pharmacist, will take care of you. So please say hi to Joy if you go to the East Street South store on Charles Sanders Highway. And of course, Charles Sanders Highway is where my good cousin, Ansela, we call her Silla. That's where Silla take care of things. She run the money up in there, so, you know, she will be able to give you a little something, something, or something, something. If you run out or run low or you need some help, just say, Silla, we heard Captain Glenn Bain said to us when we come here and we run a little low on funds, you could knock off a little something, something, a little 2 or 3% of that something, something, so we could keep things ticking along like Maritime Matters say. And of course, we got Freeport, and Freeport is where my big cuz, Steph. That one is not 101 Pharmacy. That one is Island Care Pharmacy. That's where Steph hang out. Now, Steph wasn't doing too good of late. You know, I've been to Freeport this weekend. I can tell you about my Freeport trip. So, me and Steph hang out a little while. She wasn't feeling all of that. Steph getting a little old. Steph older than me. Yeah, Steph, you're a little older than me. Boy, she and me. But anyway, Steph will be there every year and there. And Steph will also be able to do a little something, something, after something, something, if you run low on funds. And that's how we roll at Island Care Pharmacy in Freeport. So we are secondly sponsored, ladies and gentlemen, by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. That is BMC. That's us. We provide a full slate of ISPS maritime security services now for over 20 years. We're the oldest Bahamian local RSOs, certified persons to do ISPS services in the Bahamas. And we ain't bragging or nothing, right? But we're supposed to be the best. If we're not the best, we're among the best. That's how we roll it. So tonight, we wish to continue discussions on maritime-related issues. Topics shall include the following: Bahama-wide marine pilotage. I see a lot of people don't know what marine pilotage is all about. And I got a good friend who always tell me, man, you need to break some of these things down on the show, because you just assume people know these things. People don't know these things, you know. You need to explain something. But I can't remember what people don't know, what people know, and what I need to explain and what I don't need to explain. But one thing I know for sure, I didn't even know it was marine pilotage, even while I was on the defense force, until I got out. And then I understood, okay, there's some people who just bring the big ships in port. Not only in the Bahamas, but all over the world. Just like how you have an airplane pilot that flies the plane while you sit down and relax, land the plane, take off the plane, land the plane, and while the plane flying, ain't got much to do. Just put it on autopilot and walk up and down the plane and show off. Because you know most of these pilots are a little buff. They like push weights and they look a little good. They ain't like me with a little pot belly or nothing like that. But anyway, let me stop. But that's how I see it. Most of these pilots in good shape, right? You got some little fat ones, but ain't much of them like that. So that's the airplane pilots. We depend on them. We put our life in their hand. But we have marine pilots too. Marine pilots are those that conduct large ships, whether it be a cruise ship or a cargo ship. You only got two types of ships in the world. You either carry people or you carry cargo, right? So all of those large ships are required to take, but the insurance demand that when you go in a local port, you got to take a pilot because you don't know that port like that local fella who's a marine pilot. That fella knows every inch of that harbor. That fella knows when the wind is blowing from certain direction, how it affects your maneuver inside that harbor. That fella should know and will know how the current run, according to how high the tide is. Now you got to remember current shifts based on the tide. And I tell you all this because I had to go through it. I'm a marine pilot. Not active today, but I've been active for many, many years. Well over 25 years, eh? So the current shifts based on whether the tide is coming up or whether it's going down. Because of course when the tide is coming up, water's coming in the harbor. And the inlet where the water comes through is, it's a bottleneck. So when water coming through there, it speeds up. Anytime water is coming from a bigger area to a smaller area through a narrow bottleneck, the water will speed up, and that's what we call tide. It's a tidal effect. And sometimes it's according to how much water got to go through that little small bottleneck will make the current even stronger. That's why you get certain cuts, right? Like Galileo cut in exomas. Oh, that's a dangerous cut sometimes. Boy, when you see tide shifting and that water moving, trying to get off the ocean onto the banks through Galileo cut. Why you on a ship sometimes that current does actually take your ship and put it where you don't want it. It puts it where you don't want it. Mine is good at putting it in safe water. But you have no control when you're in that cut, when that tide's strong. And I have been through it many times, so I can tell you. But like I say, the good thing about it is it don't take you out the channel. It keeps you in the channel. So you could win on that one, right? But that's what tide is all about. But the marine pilot, that fella who's being paid to bring that ship from the ocean, because you have something called a pilot boat. Now, a lot of people think the pilot boat just go out there to show the ship, follow me, that's how you get in the harbor. That's what a lot of people think, They see that little boat going out there with the white over the red light, the pilot boat, and it'd be like, oh, that's the boat we're going to show the ship how to come in. No, that boat ain't got nothing to do with it. That boat go out there to put the pilot on board the ship. And then when the pilot get on board the ship, and you see that little boat coming ahead of the cruise ship or ahead of the cargo ship, they ain't coming back in port. They ain't showing them how to get it. They coming back in port. But now, if the ship follow them, sometimes that ship is taking the wrong approach, and when they need to make a turn or do something to get safely to that dock inside the harbor, they could be aground. So the ships don't follow the pilot boat, right? You gotta remember the pilot boat overpowers the wind and the current. They can overpower anything because they got engines so strong enough to get them anywhere they want to go. But that ship, because it has to go slow enough to don't overrun its speed when it get in the harbor, plus it have to be in a position where it allow the wind to blow the ship down, because the wind will blow down anyway. So you want to be upwind if the wind is coming from a particular direction. You want to cheat on the side of the wind, so that when you reach that bottleneck where you need to be, the ship will be smack in the middle of the breaker on Paradise Island and the breaker at Arawak Key. You got to be smack in the middle or you want to be on the side where the wind is blowing you toward the next one. But you don't want to be on the side where the breakwater is on your downwind side and the wind's still blowing you on it, otherwise you can hit it, right? So the pilot knows how, which course to take, which position to put the bow of that ship, so that while the wind is blowing the ship all the time and it's slowing down and making that maneuver, the ship will wind up in the middle of the most critical point, which is in the middle of between those two breakwaters. And the ship don't only have to be between those two breakwaters, it also got to be turning at the same time. Because, you know, when you come in the Nassau Harbor, you got to come in and you got to turn left if you're a cruise ship and turn right if you're a cargo ship. You're not just going to go straight to the dock, because there's no dock. You'll end up on Long Wharf Beach, right? So the pilot is extremely experienced and extremely knowledgeable about the harbor. And it's the same thing in Freeport Harbor. Freeport Harbor is even more difficult. Well, just as difficult, eh? Because Freeport Harbor has a very tight bottleneck where ships come straight off the ocean and enter the basin. And while you entering that basin, when you're between that harbor mouth, you know, just with that big time restaurant name where you go to and they feed the sharks, Pier 1. Right where Pier 1 is, that's the mouth of the harbor. And if the breeze is coming strong, which it sometimes does, especially from the east, that breeze is blowing that ship all the time. So they gotta cheat on the wind. They gotta go high on the wind. They go near Buckle jetties them sometimes, right? So that by the time they reach the mouth, the wind already blow them down right where they want to be. So it's not as simple when you're on a big ship as just pointing your bow to the middle of the harbor and going there. Because by the time you reach it, the wind will blow you way off, so you wouldn't even be there no more, right? So it's a lot of interpolation, it's a lot of skill, it's a lot of experience involved, and the captains of those ships really don't do that often enough to know how to do that. Now, a lot of captains are very experienced because a lot of them come in these ports over and over again. Now, some of them can actually take their ship and harbor on their own, right? Boy, but when you see it get rough and the wind pick up, oh no, they are going to lean on that pilot, oh, Mr. Pilot, and they're going to be afraid. Captains are afraid that if their boat hit, they know they lose their job. Because the people who own these boats, they ain't trying to hire a captain who will allow the boat to get run aground. And in most cases, once your ship runs aground, even if a pilot on board, you didn't take no action as a captain, you just allow the pilot to run your ship aground, they can get rid of you and hire someone else. You know, and then you can hardly find a job as captain of a ship after that, because you know your name, everybody can know is you, right? Especially with technology the way it is today. So the marine pilot has a humongous amount of pressure on him, because he is the one person that is telling the helmsman or the person steering the boat what course to steer. He is the one person that is telling the engineer or the chief engineer on the bridge whether to go half ahead, full ahead, slow ahead, neutral, which means stop all engines, back to, which means again astern, and sometimes they use terms like easy and half and that type of thing, and that's what pilot does on board a ship. He goes on that ship, he or she, because we got female pilots, we got Lorna Maxis and Freeport who could bring in any size ship in that harbor, right? She has done very well as a female, and I think she's the first female in this country that was able to bring a ship from the ocean inside a port. You had some who probably was doing tankers and whatnot, but they wasn't bringing ships inside a port where a ship had to maneuver on its own. And although you have to talk about assistance, you still got to maneuver. You know, going to a jetty like they do with those tankers is far less difficult than it is to actually bring a ship inside a harbor, turn it around, and put it where it need to go. Right? You got to really be on your game. So I hats off to Lorna Maxis. I don't think she get recognized enough for being the first female to do what she does today. And then, of course, we got other females coming up the ladder. And I think that eventually we'll have quite a few females being able to bring ships from the ocean as a pilot, telling everybody what to do on the bridge, and turn that ship around and maneuver it onto its berth. That's not an easy feat for anybody. Judge a female, right? But Lorna did it. Lorna, keep it up. That's my girl. She ain't easy. Letting you know now. So, the Marine pilot. I want everybody to know, a Marine pilot is the person that takes the little pilot boat that is on board the little pilot boat, because the little pilot boat have a captain called a coxswain, right? So the coxswain takes the pilot out to the big ship. When he reach the big ship, he goes alongside, and the two of these vessels moving now. It ain't like they're just stationary sitting there waiting. Yeah, they may slow down, but they be moving when the pilot boat goes alongside. And then the pilot got to climb a ladder to get on board the big ship. And usually that ladder may have 5-6 steps, but with tankers you may have to go 30 steps up, right? They got a long ladder, so you got to do plenty climbing. But with cruise ships, they normally have a couple steps because they lower one of the outer doors. I'll call them doors. We call them hatches, right? But I'll call them doors for the sake of those who don't know maritime the way I might. So they open one of the lower doors near the water so that the pilot don't have to do much climbing to get on board the ship. And then once the pilot get on board, they close that door back, right? And the pilot will walk on that deck to the elevators and then take the elevators to the navigation deck, which is normally the 10th deck, some cases deck 12, right? So you'll go up to the navigation deck, and then he would be escorted into, mind you, there's a lot of security going on now, because ain't nobody can just go and walk on the bridge of those ships. They got security all over the place. But everybody noticed the pilot come in, and he basically got free reign, along with whoever's escorting him to the bridge. And once that pilot gets on the bridge, and you can imagine a lady, Lorna Maxis, going on the bridge of a cargo container ship over 1,000 feet long, and that captain on that container ship turns his ship over to this young lady in her 40s and says, "Pilot, you have the ship." So the ship is now still in the ocean, and Lorna has to dictate to them, please come to course 015, whatever the case may be. I can't remember those courses for entering Freeport Harbor, right? But I know it's a northerly course. 015, 010, whatever the course may be, 350, I don't know. But she'll tell them, bring it around. Sometimes she need to get upwind because the captain has the ship basically on the track that he wants to take to get in. But if he stays on the track, the wind will blow him off track. So she will give them instructions to come to starboard a bit so that the ship will now get high to the wind on the track, so that as the wind blow it down, it will continue to stay on track with the wind blowing it. And that's what pilots do, right? And she will tell them what to do with the speed. And as she moves, she say, port 10, wheel on, midships, starboard 5, starboard 20. You know, she will tell them what to do with the rudders on board that ship. She will tell them what to do with each of those 2 engines. Well, most cargo ships have one big engine, right? What to do with your engine. She will be telling the tugboats where to take boats. And she will be coordinating that whole activity. And she does this year in and year out until she's a professional expert. The marine pilot is the expert of handling ships in that harbor. And we got all Bahamians. There was a time about 30 years ago, when I first went to Freeport. I used to actually do pilot training in Freeport as well, eh? And we had a handful of foreigners being pilots in Freeport Harbor, and at South Riding Point, and at Borco. And I am happy that today there's not one foreigner in any of our ports anywhere in the Bahamas bringing in ships or taking ships out, because the Bahamians have taken over all of those posts. And that should have happened a long time ago, but now ain't nothing before it's time. They say right now we have enough pilots, Bahamian pilots, to take care of all pilot operations we need in this country. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there simply because in this country we don't need captains to pilot their own ships to go in no port. I don't care if it's your private island. I don't care if it's somebody else's private island. I don't care if it's a remote area in this country. Wherever a ship needs to come into a port and tie up to a dock or drop anchor, even anchorage, that ship should have a Bahamian pilot. Because any country in this world, any first world country, I'll call them first world or developed country, right? And they call us, what they call us? Not undeveloped countries, developing countries. They don't call us third world countries no more. They call us developing countries now, right? Because, we still got room to do some things. But every developed country, like US and Europe and Asia, and you could call the names of just about all the ports in Europe, there's no ship, large ship, can go anywhere without taking a pilot. Excuse me. And same thing in the US. You cannot go in the US. I used to drive. I remember for 2 years I used to be a relief captain. This is Captain Black's ship, the Freeport Flyer. And I used to be a relief captain when Captain Black go on vacation or when he went off to school to do some training and stuff like that. I would take his ship, and once a week we went to this port up in Jacksonville area called Fernandina Beach, right? And this Freeport Flyer used to be Tropic Day. It used to be one of tropical original ships. So it ain't that big. I think the draft was only about 11, 12 feet. And the ship itself was about 180 feet, 170 feet, right? So, no, I take that back. It probably was about 240 feet long. But in the eyes of cargo ships operating between the Bahamas and Florida, the Freeport Flyer was like the smallest, because tropical ships were bigger than that, right? Tropical shipping, that used to be a tropical ship back in the 60s and maybe the 70s. But they don't get rid of that. And we had some people, some locals in the Bahamas bought it. And they were bringing in freight on a weekly basis from Fernandina Beach. They would go to Freeport. They would go to Ortec and Andres to deal with all those open top containers every week. We'll carry every other week or so. We carry the empty ones and we bring back all the full ones and so that they can dispose of their garbage. So the Freeport Flyer was doing some maneuvering. But every time the Freeport Flyer went to Fernandina Beach, we had to take a pilot. Mind you, the pilot came on board, and, well, of course, he'll sit down and he'll have his coffee, and we'll start chatting, but he'll never say anything to me. I bring the ship from the ocean, the pilot boat puts him on board, he comes on board, and he just sits there while I take the ship all the way to the dock. Because I know the route. And once I learned it, once I saw it, once I knew how to do it, you can look in the water and see when it's deep and when it's shallow. And they got buoys and all the rest of that. So I was able to carry the ship in and out all the time with no assistance from the pilot. But guess what? Guess what? I could not enter that port unless a pilot, and it was always the same person, unless a pilot came on board that vessel. Because we had to pay the man. So piloting is not only somebody helping you to bring the ship in. Because like I say, in this case, I didn't need no help. Captain Black didn't need no help. He knew how to get in and out of Fernandina Beach to the dock where we went, right? But this is a business venture for the U.S. Well, for all countries, except the Bahamas, I guess, right? Because we don't capitalize on it. Our authorities don't make this implemented. You see, the pilots can't do it. I can't do it. It has to come from the Minister of Transport. That is who is mandated, or that is who is authorized by the Port Authorities Act, which the piloting comes under, to ensure that all ships take pilots. Any ship over 30 gross tons, or 300, I think it's 30 gross tons. But we don't even bother with the small ones, right? Because these days, ships are so big compared to when that act was written in 1965 that everybody knows which ships is carry pilots. But the thing is, these ships will never, these cruise ships in particular, would never try to come into Nassau, and cargo ships, come into Nassau Harbor and not take a pilot, because they know they're not going to get away with it. Right? Because we have pilots. What would they do when they go to their private island? They ain't looking for no pilot as far as they're concerned. This be key, this be island, and this be ship, and we ain't need no pilot. But according to the law, they are required to take a pilot. So somebody got to tell me, and many others, and by the way, the number to call is 326-8255. I usually give that out early, but I give it a note now. If you want to call and have anything to say or any contribution to make or any questions on piloting in the Bahamas, because this gets me really angry to understand that we are a country with the ability to have tens of pilots, right? We have tens now because we got like probably about 15 to 20 in Grand Bahama. We have 8 authorized for Nassau Harbor, and then they got some independent pilots. I think it's about 6 to 8 of them. So we have like 30 to 40 right now as we speak. But this country can have over 100 pilots, and this country needs over 100 pilots. Junior pilots and senior pilots and pilots apprentices, in order to facilitate all of these cruise ship movements in this country. Because when they go to their private islands, they don't take no pilot. They don't pay for no pilot. And unless the minister puts the minister's foot down and cause the laws in the Port Authority Act pertaining to pilotage to be enforced, we will always in this country have foreigners bringing in their own ship and they ain't paying a dime to pilotage. That's a job. That's money for the country. So every time a ship goes into Castaway Key, which used to be Gorda Key, by the way, off Sandy Point, Abaco, just south of Morris Island, and they go in there every day. I can tell you that. Every day. They in and out of there. They don't take no pilot because ain't nobody demanding that they take a pilot. Because if a pilot go there, they can say, "Why we ain't want no pilot?" But the minister, or should I say the office of the Minister of Transport, needs to let these cruise ships know, or these cruise ship companies know, that whenever any of their cruise ship is going to land anywhere in the Bahamas, they are required to. And if the minister does that, automatically they will make provisions for a pilot. They will make sure that the pilot boat could be accommodated, the pilot crew could be accommodated, and the pilot could be accommodated. Because you could have a pilot station, I wouldn't even say Sandy Point, the pilot could be stationed in Marsh Harbor or somewhere else in Abaco, and on a daily basis, early in the morning, let's drive down to Sandy Point, hop in, because I want you to know they have a ferry that brings all the people in every day and take them back home every night, because people don't live on the key. Hop on the ferry, get there with a screw, hop on the pilot boat, go out in the ocean. It's not very far. Hop on the Disney ship, go to the bridge just like they do in Nassau, and bring that ship in harbor. And guess what? The Disney captains do that today. They may not need anybody to tell them how to do it. Just like I didn't need nobody, Captain Black didn't need nobody to tell them how to do it in Fernandina Beach. And anywhere we went, if we went to the port of Miami, A pilot got to come on board, and we didn't need none. If you went to Port Everglades, a pilot got to come because they need that little shing shing. They want to make sure you pay the pilot. So why we can't do that in the Bahamas? Why we can't make sure that whether the cruise ships say they need a pilot or not, because they ain't got no say. They're in our country. They should follow our laws. They are required to carry a pilot. So it ain't up to them. When are we going to get to that level? Because we got Castaway Key. We got Perfect Day at Coco Key. We got the ship coming to Stirrup Key on anchor, but they still should be taking a pilot to go on anchor. As a matter of fact, we need to put a mooring buoy there. We need to put a mooring buoy at Coco Key so that big anchor on the ship don't be hitting our seabed. Every single time they come, every day. And I tell you that. I know that they anchor there because they ain't got no choice. Yeah, but anchor, you ain't got to drop that big old heavy bolt anchor there. You could use your ship rope and put it around a slip on a mooring buoy, and that buoy could be drilled into the seabed with the weight and compacted so that it ain't dragging on the bottom with no big heavy chain and all that. And you have a nice big buoy, and they have such buoys for ships to connect to. Right here, if you go out west, to Clifton Pier, where you can see sometimes when you're passing, ships are actually attached to buoys. They're not dropping the anchor. And you know why? I'll tell you why they put buoys there. Part of the reason why they put buoys, because they're now dealing with tankers. They're dealing with gas and oil and fuel and all the rest of that, right? They're dealing with tankers. And the holding bottom is not very good. It's not a sandy, it's like bar and rock, and so the anchor will probably drag out of position and the ship moving around because the anchor ain't holding. And so what they did is they put moorings there, secured to the bottom with tackle that they know ain't gonna never move. And so when that ship connects to that mooring, the ship ain't going nowhere. They not only have mooring for the bow, they have mooring for the stern of the ship. So the ship is tie up the bow and then drop back and throw the rope for the stern to connect to a mooring. So they're on two moorings. So why is it that the ship that goes to Stirrup Key, the cruise ship that go there on a daily basis, why aren't Norwegian Cruise Line, NCL, because only that shippers go there, why aren't they being directed by our Minister of Transport to no longer drop anchor, and they must have a mooring buoy in place? And we have entities in this country which could put that mooring buoy in place for them. It ain't like it can't be done. But the minister need to mandate these things, because these people are just take advantage and no one spend no money and do what they want to do, and we Bahamian people suffering as a result, because all of that is monies that we could be extracting from that cruise ship operation, just like when they go in the US and they go in Europe and they go anywhere else in the world. But they take advantage of us because we are developing country who ain't know no better. But you gotta wonder, does our Minister of Transport know that we losing this revenue? Because that revenue not only feeds the pilot's family, it also feeds the pilot boat crew family, right? So if you can imagine the amount of revenue, if you take Stirrup Key, Half Moon Key, Castaway Key, excuse me, Coco Key, Princess Key, and the new one down in Lighthouse Point. You can imagine if all of those are now made to take pilots, the amount of revenue that we're not getting that we'll now start to gain, and it may be small. But it makes a difference, because now you're going to have more pilots in this country, because we don't have enough now because we don't have no demand for more. But if we get that demand, we'll have more pilots, we'll have more pilots apprentices, we'll have more pilot boats, we'll have more pilot crew, and we will be carrying on like the developed countries. And I could push for it as long as I could, from this platform because I'm a maritime man, eh? And if I'm a maritime man, I feel like I am obligated to bring our country up to speed where we losing out. I'm losing out big time. Mind you, guys, fix this whole pilot operation. Boy, I can talk about that plenty about fixing this whole pilot operation as we move on through the night. So, again, the number to reach me is 326-8255 if you want in on this discussion. It's going to be deep, but we're going to be talking about marine pilots, and we're going to be saying the whole Bahama-wide, any ship, all the way down to Inagua, you know, they take a pilot to bring the salt ship into Morton. Well, I know that. But apparently the pilot is away from Morton, and we got to do something with that. Why should pilots be waiting for these companies? There should be no pilot waiting for no company in this country. We should have pilots associations like they do everywhere else in the world. And they do not wait for no company. The only wait they do is they come to bring your ship to the dock. And you or the ship got to pay them. So a lot of things we got to fix. And we will fix. We'll start by talking about them tonight. So we need the Minister of Transport to make certain mandates. And the laws are already in place. We don't even need no law now. We just need to implement our laws. We need to enforce what is on the books. And not only in the maritime area, that's countrywide. We just a slack bunch that have laws that we just ignore because we slack. And this one I can point out because this one comes, all the slackness under the Boat Registration Act and the Port Authority Act and the Merchant Shipping Act. Oh Lord, we don't want to talk about that. And the Water Skiing and Motorboat Control. All them slack laws that we are not enforcing. The law says slack. We slack because we're enforcing them. We need to continue to point out. And we need to put enough pressure on our Minister of Transport, because now the Port Controller and the Director of Maritime Authority and the boards, they all answer to the Minister. The buck stops at the Minister. So I can blame the Minister. I don't care who's the Minister. Now, there has been Ministers of Transport for decades now. And yes, they were all negligent. I won't call them slack because they're ministers, right? Boy, but they slack anyhow, right? But they were all negligent in ensuring that these provisions and these acts are being enforced, and for the sake of Bahamians making money, and for the sake of developing Bahamians in these areas. Boy, I got some things I can tell you. Well, I might tell you all tonight, but I could tell you all tonight, right? So, the second thing we can discuss, and this one can be after we come back for the break. Mind you, we ain't finished with pilots. We ain't started good on that yet, but we can come back to that. It's the Utopia of the Seas. There's an article in the dailies that the Utopia of the Seas, as we know, is the Bahamas' exclusive ship itinerary. They don't go nowhere else but the Bahamas, because they come here twice a week. And they leave either Miami, Port Everglades, wherever their home port, which I don't count as a visiting port, as a home port. That's where they take on all their provisions, take on all their passengers. And when the voyage over, the passengers come off and they take on more provisions and new passengers, right? But they do it twice a week. They get a 3-day cruise and a 4-day cruise, right? And they do that. The Utopia of the Seas does it because they make more money. They make more money because they get 2 fresh sets of pockets within 1 week. Cruise ships normally do cruises for at least a week. They start off from 7 days, they go to 10 days, 12 days, 14 days, some go to 21 days, but they don't go for less than a week, right? But in this case, the Utopia, she do 3 and 4 day cruises. And that's only possible because the Bahamas is so close to those 3 largest home ports in the world. That's Miami, Port Everglades, and Port Canaveral. We are so close that they could come to the Bahamas, do 2 stops, and be back in Florida, ready for another one. And they do the same 2 stops every trip. You know what those 2 stops are? Coco Key, because they own that key, and Nassau Harbor, because again, that ain't far from Coco Key, and then they could get back to Florida. So because we are so close, they can do that 2-stop, 3-day cruises over and over again. And according to the dailies, that ship from July of last year goes out full of tourists every single trip. Their itinerary has been full. Like they come out and they only get half capacity. They were full capacity from July. So you know it has to be part. Only 3-day trips have to be very popular. A lot of people like to do it because it's cheaper than the full 7-day. You get all of what you get during the 7-day, but it's only for 3 days. And you get broke because you get in the casino and spend up all your money. But you got the Nassau stop. And you got, well, when you go to Coco Key, you ain't got much to spend money on, eh? But they can make you spend some money now because they got all these zip lines and rock climbing, and they got all kind of things to show for you to spend a couple dollars on. And we got to talk with all those equipment, those jet skis and parasail and non-motorized equipment. Who owns those? They're supposed to be owned by Bahamians. There's no way in the world foreigners are supposed to be making money from that. And that's another thing we got to talk about. But these private islands, when the ship come to their private islands, right? But we ain't going to talk about that today. We can just mention that today. But the Utopia of the seas. So as we move to our first break, again, the number to call is 326-8255. You're listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. I am accompanied by Mr. Craig Gibson, the producer. And we are here for you. The number to call is 326-8255. Feel free to call in. We only got about 40 minutes left. Boy, time that's rolling away from us, eh? Thank you very much as we move to our break.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time.
We are back. You're listening to Maritime Matters. We're live in the studios of Love 97 FM, Jones Communication. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain, and with me, as my producer tonight, my normal producer, my regular producer, Mr. Craig Gibson, keeping us alive and kicking. The number to call if you want in on this discussion, we're talking about Pilotage in the Bahamas, we're talking about the Utopia, the seas, and some of these private islands that these cruise ships have, and how they doing so well, and all we need to talk about how they're making plenty more cruise ships. Every year you get a couple coming out, and they are running short on destinations. So what we need to do, we need to make sure that the Bahamas gets more destinations so these ships can have far more places to go in the Bahamas, So our government got to really kick in and do something about that. And we got to put pressure on our government to do it. Not me, but we. So call it 326-8255 and let them know you care and you are also interested in getting this sorted out. So, I got to say good night to my Annie Mae. Annie Mae is our #1 fan on Maritime Matters. So I say good evening to you, Auntie Mae, because that's my good old Auntie Mae up there in Freeport. She is now 92 years old. She turned 92 last week Wednesday, one day after the show. Auntie Mae is now 92. And over the weekend, I just came from Freeport a couple hours ago. I came from Freeport and I rushed to the studio to try and get the show on the road. But over the weekend, we had a church ceremony in Freeport that celebrated Annie Mae's 92-year milestone. And when I say, we had a regular church service, but part of it was just, it's celebratory for this 92-year-old lady. And I could tell you, this was an amazing event that uplifted everybody in the house. Everybody in that place was uplifted and cheering and shouting, and it was a joyful time, Just to see this 92-year-old stand and address the crowd without a mic. Her voice was strong and fluid. If you were there, you was moved, my friend. You had no choice but to be moved by my Annie Mae. And of course, following this, we all gathered by one of the daughters' house, Vernice. Annie Mae got 4 daughters. You got Lorian, you got Margot, you got Vernice, and Yvonne. Oh, Yvonne always want to beat me up because I always forgetting Yvonne's name. So they're the 4 daughters. And of course, the two sons, Gart and Dwayne, have already passed on, as well as the husband, my Uncle George, right? So, we were at Viney's house and continued the celebrations, during which, of course, I got the surprise of my life. I was presented with the first piece of cake when the cake cut. I said, Annie Mae, me? I said, yeah, glad you. I said, well, great. Boy, I grabbed that piece of cake and I enjoy eating that. But, let me tell you, I felt the piercing of some eyes from them grands and great grands. They're like, who this man is come getting first piece and I can't get first piece? They're just wondering what's going on here. So, I had to do a little explanation there. I tell them, I say, look, I lost my mommy, Granlyn Hepburn. My mom died in 2019. I said, I ain't got no more mommy. Well, mommy is how I used to call her, right? And so I didn't have no more mother to adore me and spoil me like Granlyn did. And also, I reminded them of how Annie Mae lost both her sons, Gav and Dwayne, within 10 days span. So within 10 days, well, Dwayne died first. And she told me, say, go ahead, Glenn, after Dwayne died and we was getting ready to prepare for Dwayne's funeral, God got a suit and this and that. And we had to bury God in the suit God got for himself to go to Dwayne's funeral then. I mean, that was so touching. I said, Annie Mae, I don't know how you did it. Much mothers could do it. Your only 2 sons you lost 10 days apart. That is an amazing woman, right? And so, after I told them that story, I said, so Annie Mae ain't got no son, so she adopt me. I ain't got no mother, I adopt her. So, if I a son and she's my mother, why can't I get the first piece? I was just running on. But look here, we had a jolly full time. Everybody enjoyed it. The music was blasting. The little Kool-Aid was dishing out. You know, everybody. y'all know how I go. Kool-Aid my foot. Anyway, so I say again, good night to my good old Annie Mae, our number one fan, who's now 92 years old. You're listening to Maritime Matters, people, and on this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters airs weekly at 17:05, that's 5:05 p.m. every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. The purpose of our show is to highlight persons that made significant contributions to maritime in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. And we talk about all these opportunities as pilots. Because if we open the door to pilot every large ship that engages our harbors in this country, we will need 3 times the amount of pilots we have today, which means 3 times the amount of pilot boats, which means 3 times the amount of pilot staff, which means 3 times the amount of we just can need more, and we can make more money, and those cruise ships will not be getting away with the monies they are keeping in their coffers that should be in some Bahamian homes. And that's how I see it. If you see it differently, let me know. 326-8255. That's the number to call. Let's boogie. Let's rock. Let's roll. Let's boogie. If you all think I talking foolishness, call. If you think I talking sense, call. I need someone to call and say something, man. Where are those pilots out there? I know we got plenty pilots in this country, and I know some of y'all listening. Let's call and say how we can make this happen. Another thing is the amount of money we charge for pilotage. Why we charge so little compared to what they charge in say, Florida? We ain't got no different conditions. The ships are all getting bigger. We need to start charging them for the free board now, right? Anyway, the phone number to call us, should you wish to get in on the discussions during the show, is 326-8255. That's 326-8255. To hear a replay of the show or any of our previous shows, simply hit us up at any time on our YouTube page. That's Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just like how you say, I love you, I say Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just go to YouTube on any electronic device you got and type in the search box, Maritime Matters Bahamas, and the litany of our shows pops up. Maritime Matters, for what you could even put in for which Tuesday you wanted that show for, and that one will pop up. But you got choices piled up like dirt. We've only been going on for just over 2 years, so you know you're looking at least about 25, 26 shows. So let's talk maritime. Hello. Now back to our big topic for the night, which is Bahama-wide marine pilotage. We talk about ships engaging our shores to do trade. You trade either passengers you bring in to come and see our place, or cargo you coming to bring to us, or you coming to take cargo out of the country. But in any case, you need to bring ships to get the cargo or bring the cargo or bring the passengers. And in so doing, those ships need to secure to docks or they need to anchor. And in this case, they are required to take a marine pilot. And as I said earlier, the marine pilot is the person that goes on the pilot boat out into the ocean, get on board the ship, goes to the navigation bridge, and tell everybody on the navigation bridge, once the captain turns the ship over to him, what to do to get that ship in there safely. It tells the helmsman or the man steering the ship. He gives wheel orders and he gives course orders. And I don't want to get too technical. Course orders would mean a compass course, right? 010, 240, 325. They compass orders. It's always a 3-digit order that the person steering will have to bring the compass around to whatever those digits are. And that's known as a course order. And then you also have what they call well, I can't remember now, one of them other orders. It's where you tell them to go port or starboard and how much degrees to go. Right? So somebody called me and tell me what that one is called. I can't remember offhand, right? But you got the course order and you get the other order where they say port 10 or port 20 or steady. Steady as she go means whatever course that compass is on at that time, try to keep that. Right? We got a call coming in. Call you on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Good afternoon, Captain Ben.
Good afternoon, my dear. And how are you?
I would like to change the subject or add to the subject of your discussion later on concerning the Chinese vessels, Chinese-built vessels, and the fees that are expected to for them to encounter entering U.S. ports.
Yeah, we could switch because ain't nobody seem to be interested in this part of this thing anyhow. I ain't get no call, so let's just switch to that. That's a big topic, and I understand that's gonna affect companies like Tropical Shipping, who has their ships built in China. I know the mail boat had the Fiesta Mail built in China, but they sold that, and now the ones they have, I think, are all built in the U.S., in Louisiana, and that type of thing. So, let's go. You go right ahead, darling. Tell me how we can do that.
No, I'm putting it to you, but my concern is we separating the flag, which would have dictated that the ship was Bahamian, to now separating the flag from where it was built, and you know, it seems to me to be a little bit petty because you know, you buy a used vehicle. It could be built anywhere. It then becomes yours once you transship it here, and it becomes yours, right? So are we separating the flag and the actual vessel, the nationality of the vessel, etc.? Because I remember when during COVID we took all of those Bahamian registered vessels because their nationality was Bahamian, and so now if we separate that just because of where they were built, and then we specifically separating Chinese and Europeans and so forth. I mean, because it only begins with China, then it'll go on to the other nationals if that is successful, if they find they're making a lot more money.
No, well, actually, I'm not sure whether what the U.S. is not concerned about which flag the ship is, you know. Because those
in this instance they're not.
Well, in this instance is what I think you're talking about, where you have to pay a tax if the ship was built in China. What the U.S. is trying to do is they're trying to get people to understand, don't let your ship be built in China because we want to make that money. Let it build somewhere else, or you can pay. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to take the business from Chinese shipyards. So it's not about who owns the ship.
I beg to differ, because I think that what they're doing is, if you look at where they're positioning themselves, right? They've taken back Panama. They've occupied more fully Cuba, Guantanamo. I don't think that's worked out for them to put the migrants there. So now the Bahamas. And you know, we're going to continue down, and I think maybe there's a belief that the Chinese may be outfitting these vessels for other purposes, because it doesn't make sense to me that you're just going to single out Chinese-built vessels.
No, but you got to understand, Chinese-built vessels are being singled out simply because there's a trade war right now between the U.S. and China. President Trump created a war, and he's going at China in every angle he could. So what he's saying is, any China, well, first of all, any freight coming from China on any vessel, we can tax them. And second of all, any vessel built by China coming into U.S. waters, we can tax that too, because we don't want no Chinese-built vessel We don't want nobody getting to China to build a more vessel. There's a message he's sending to ship owners that if you build a boat in China, you could be in problems with us. You can't come here unless you can pay extra money. So the guy who, let's look at it for what it is right now. Tropical Shipping already said that their ships are built in China, right? So they have to tack on the fee to go back to the U.S. when they come to the Bahamas to bring us freight, or when they come to the Caribbean, when they go back to the U.S., every trip they got to pay that money, tax, according to the President Trump. But so they saying they have to tag that on to us, who they providing service for.
But I don't think that's a good business.
No, but I tell you what
you do business. If you now encounter an increase in your fees, you shouldn't automatically say that the people should, the consumer should pay it.
So how you gonna pay that if you don't pass that on to the consumer? You wouldn't be able to pay it.
You should examine other avenues where you can save costs and cut costs. The Bahamas has a lot to offer, not just with the U.S. We have a whole port in Abaco that was built maybe 10, 15 years ago that is not utilized as far as I know.
That's because it's useless, because the ships can't get in there. The ships
dredge it like they dredging everywhere else.
But you can't dredge miles of dredging, and you got to maneuver. It's not as simple as you making it sound.
Increase on Bahamian food and products.
Yeah, but
dredging becomes an option now. It's looking a little bit better.
Yeah, but how much dredging you talking about? You got to understand.
I'm just saying that before you just slam us with a bill, look at other avenues that you can save money. Use other vessels, trade the Chinese-built vessels into another route. There are other things that can be done immediately. You say you're going to increase the fees on the people.
Well, hold on. You're talking about tropical shipping now, saying that they may have to increase. If you own a ship for the past 10 years, and that ship was built in China, you're not going to be able to change that ship out with another ship if you don't have it.
And I'm sure Tropical don't only build ships in China.
Well, the recent ones, they were all built in China.
But then, we trying to save the economy, we're trying to save the business, right? So if they're not facing that same type of tariff war in wherever else they're sailing, then they could just switch out the ships.
They switch out with who? You said ain't nobody can buy them ships, because if they can't trade with the U.S., why would they buy them ships?
Tell them they could just put them in a route where they're not charged the fee.
Like where?
Wherever the Tropical sails.
Tropical only sails out of West Palm Beach to the Caribbean. The Tropical base is in West Palm Beach. They can't just change their base.
No, I'm saying, and then you look at the cost too. They could, if you have a vessel that's trading and you have the exact same sister ship to some other company, maybe you could charter the boat to try to reduce the cost for us.
Well, if you chartering a boat, what are you going to do with the boat that you own that is sitting in West Palm Beach? Let it sit there?
No, I'm saying they could charter that boat. Because I'm sure Tropical don't actually own a lot of those boats outright.
Tropical own every single one of their ships.
Okay.
Tropical is a very large company that is well established. That was for decades they were providing this service to the entire Caribbean. Tropical is only operates between Florida and the Caribbean, and maybe some of the Central American countries. Tropical shipping don't go nowhere else in the world.
Oh, but the freight is coming from China, right?
No, the freight is coming from America. All the freight is coming out of the U.S.
Yeah, but it's originating in China.
No, it's not. It's originating from anywhere, but it depends on where the people want to buy their stuff from. But if Tropical Shipping is going to be delivering the stuff, they deliver mainly from operators right in Florida, for the most part. Now, if they got something coming from China, when that something reach the U.S., that's going to be taxed, and then it go to the ship for Tropical Shipping, and they bringing it out, so they can be taxed.
Yeah, we have just-in-time delivery, right? If Tropical is facing that problem, and we're talking about not increasing the cost for Bahamians, right? that what those cargoes that they go into the U.S. or they transport in from the U.S. is predominantly made in China, right? Even
well, most things in the world is made in China. Yeah.
Past the Bahamas to go to China, to go to the U.S. to pick up stuff that was delivered to China from China.
Well, I don't know if you've seen lately somebody put in the papers where tropical shipping could probably win if they have the stuff come through Freeport and they just get it from Freeport and distribute it elsewhere. But that ship is still gonna have to return to West Palm Beach, and whenever it returns to West Palm Beach, it can be taxed.
But that might make
they will have to relocate their operation to Freeport.
Well, I mean, come on, let's talk about how we're gonna make the Bahamian people survive.
The Bahamian people survive, but Bahamian people got options. Why we using tropical shipping to begin with?
Okay, I ain't going there, but I just
we got Bahamians who own vessels that operate out of Florida, but we choose to use tropical shipping because we don't want to empower the Bahamians. So I don't have an issue with tropical shipping because I work directly with them, very close to tropical shipping for those 2 years when I did the ship management for Intamaco shipping. So I know tropical operation very well, but my thing is, we have enough Bahamians with ships that could be going in and out of the U.S. to take care of our country. But then you got some big fellas with big bucks who decide they continue to use tropical and not the Bahamian because they don't want power Bahamians to make that kind of money. But now, with tropical facing this problem, the Bahamian ships that are built in Louisiana, where most of our vessels come from, they ain't gonna be getting no extra tax because they ain't built in China. They could do that run for less than tropical now could do because they ain't gonna be getting tax, eh? So you don't think that could work in our favor now?
If we make it work in our
favor. Not if we make it work. President Trump making it work in our favor. Tropical is say they're gonna have to go up on the rates. The vessels that are owned by Mr. Tom Hanna, Mr. Elvin Taylor, Eden Steele, and all them that go in and out of the States, Bahamas ferries, they ain't getting no extra tax. So why don't we just go to them? We should have been getting them a long time. We just a bunch of slackers who don't understand how to look out for the Bahamians. That's why we ain't getting them. Okay. Sorry, I mean you, but that's how I feel. So there's a lot to unpack with that, but I'm just saying that there's other ways that Tropical could sit down and put their heads together and figure out how to make this more cost effective. There is no other way that Tropical could get out of this, because if those ships are built in China and those are the ships that they have, they in trouble. Because they can't just trade out those ships. They can't take them ships to another route. Tropical is so very much established in the Caribbean and Central and South America that they can't just up and change their operation. They have to pay the fine. And that's why they're telling us they have to go up on taxes on the cost of bringing the goods. They're telling us that. But it's us who have options. Don't you realize we have options? And this gives us a good opportunity now for more Bahamians to get more freight boats and start bringing. You know just about all the freight that goes to the Family Islands. A good almost 40 to 50% of them are bought in by tropical shipping.
You saw this topic wasn't on your list?
This topic was not on my list, but this was in my mind for a long time because I always had I always had an issue with this type of thing. All right, man, we just do our Bahamian people too bad, you know. There's no reason why any ship other than Bahamian ships should be coming to Nassau out of Florida to bring freight in this country. We are our own worst enemies. It's all because we feel like some of these brothers who get these ships can make too much money. If some of these big entities use them, they feel like they can empower them too much. They just and it costs them the same thing, you know. But they just niggling like that in their thoughts. It's nonsense, and that's the way we hurt each other in this country. Why should tropical shipping and all those other ships go to Awaki? Why should they still be coming to the Bahamas at a time like this when we have enough Bahamians who could own? You know how much ships Tom Hanna could own if he have the demand for it? how much ships Elvin Taylor and Edens Taylor and Bahamas Ferries and them could own if they have the demand for it? If these entities would come to us and not go to Tropical and not go to what the next one, big one name with Crowley and them, we gotta stop. When are we gonna catch ourselves and start making sure the Bahamas, and that's another thing, our government gotta put taxes on them because they compete with well, no, that's the international route. So you can't do that. I take that back. You can't do that.
So in 2018, Tropical committed to building $150 million worth of vessels, 6 new vessels, custom built for our region.
And where were they built?
Going to be built in China.
So now you listen and you understand it? I glad you reading that. See, I even think I read that because I don't know. I have a good idea what's going on. And for Tropical to put that out.
They call them, 4 Carib class ships and some mini express vessels. But I thought that foreign flags or foreign vessels could only go from the U.S. to a single port.
No, not no single port. They could go. They can't go from one port in the U.S. to another port. That's the reason why Tropical can't take freight from Nassau, pick up freight in Nassau, and take it to Exuma or Cat Island. They can't do the mailboat route. Otherwise, they probably been doing all them too. Because we don't like Bahamians.
And they transship with the mailboats.
Yeah, but they use the mailboats because they ain't got no choice. They would have take them things themselves if they could have. They can't get a boat registration to do that because they're not Bahamian owned.
Right.
It's a reason why these things happen. Now, from the international perspective, yeah, they continue what they do because they in with these fellas with the mega bucks. I don't want to call no name, but we know who they are, right? They don't want power the regular Bahamians.
These Carib class vessels can take 1,100 TEU and travel at 20 knots.
Yeah, but a group of Bahamians could get together and buy some of those same vessels.
Serve ports in Halifax, Canada, Palm Beach, as well as Puerto Rico and the Eastern Caribbean.
Yes, because West Palm Beach is where they are based.
Right.
And I don't want to talk too much about Tropical Shipping because they run a good show, right?
Canada is also under attack for tariffs.
Who's that?
So it's time to start rethinking our arrangements where we could, purchase our stuff or ship our stuff to Canada and then bring it to the Bahamas. We have to find a way to reduce the economic impact on the Bahamas.
You can imagine a ship going to Canada for cargo to Halifax.
Go there anyway. You're talking about $1 million a trip in tariffs.
No. But the Bahamian boats ain't built in China. The Bahamian-owned boats aren't built in China. The one that was built in China, which Elvin Namad, that they don't sell that.
Vessels.
Yeah, but we ain't worrying about Tropical.
Saying that they go to Canada, Palm Beach, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands. And I'm saying that since Canada is also under the tariff problem, they could work something out. Where the cargo that they're picking up can be delivered to Canada and then transship, and the cost for the extra miles may be less than $1 million a trip.
Yeah, but they're going to transship and then do what? What are they going to do with the vessels that they have? They still have to leave Florida and go back. Once they go back to Florida, they get paid a fine because the boat is built in China. And they have nothing to do with where the freight go and where the freight come from. It's to do with that vessel itself going back to the U.S.
So I'm proposing that they go to Canada instead.
They could go to Canada so they can come back, so they can operate out of Canada. They can operate out of West Palm Beach no more.
Yeah.
You know this for them to uproot their operation. Do you know how much it'll cost them in fuel alone?
It's going to cost us?
It'll cost. Why do you think Tropical Shipping is based in West Palm Beach? Because most of that stuff come by way of Florida to the Caribbean. But if they're all the way in China, how you go operate from China and service in the Caribbean? Yeah, I mean you could do it, but I don't think that'll be a good thing. The wear and tear on them boats and the mileage and
yes, I believe there's going to be a shift that's going to happen because of the situation with the Americans and Canada.
Yeah, the shift needs to be, people need to start using Bahamian boats, Bahamian-owned boats. The shift needs to be...
benefit from that.
Well, I don't think Crawley have the problem. I know their boats are built in China. So if Crawley don't have the problem, then most of what tropical shipping is bringing in will now go to Crawley, eh?
I don't know the name brands. I don't know the names of these people. I'm just saying that we're facing a 25% increase in all the items that is imported. And we import the majority of everything. And even those who are not using the shippers, they using these private means. I believe that the cost will still be too high.
No, but we can avoid that. We could avoid that by not bringing Chinese-made products out of the U.S. Our Chinese-made products could come by way of Freeport. Freeport has a container port that can facilitate that. And as a matter of fact, a lot of products do come through the container port in Freeport and then to Nassau without going into the U.S. That's been happening now for decades. From the time that container port was put there, that was happening on a small scale. But now that this mandate has come out by President Trump, we probably need to now look at channeling more of the Chinese goods to Freeport and then Nassau as opposed to Florida and Nassau. Because that way you will avoid that extra 25% tax.
Okay. Well, I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay 25% more for products and food. And Mr. Roberts is deeply concerned.
Well, Mr. Roberts is concerned because Mr. Roberts used tropical shipping. Mr. Roberts could use another carrier, like some of the Bahamian fellas. Can he? Can he not?
I don't think the locals, because they've not been used, they haven't developed that industry.
Yeah, but if they have a mandate now, they will develop it overnight. That could be developed overnight.
If you're talking about tropical bringing 1,100 TEUs a trip, that's more than all of the mailboats put together.
Yeah, but we could make bigger ships and do the same thing. We got the money. You don't think we got money where we could buy bigger ships?
We don't got money. We don't have money. What are they going to do, subsidize them?
No, we have money. I don't want you to sleep. I don't want you to sleep and think we don't have money. We have money. It wouldn't make sense for us to buy a ship like that if Mr. Roberts ain't give us our ship.
No, and so the only way to reduce the overall cost, the government has to step in. And the only way to reduce the overall cost to the economy is for the government to make some commitments to these would-be ship owners to expand their fleet.
So, yeah, but the government could do that. The government could do that if there's... But now you got to remember, too, now. You still got to remember, Mr. Trump is only in for 4 years. So if you shift all your arrangement for a 4-year period and then everything changes after the 4 years again, right?
Yeah.
It's only a matter of whether our importers, the big ones, like Mr. Roberts, and since you call his name, we'll stick with him. It's more than just him, but like him, if they would have the mindset to say, yeah, we will now switch to Bahamian-owned company. Who has the capacity to bring our stuff in, or we'll consider utilizing Bahamian. Once they do that, then tropical don't need to come in no more. Eh?
I don't think it's that simple,
No, it's not that simple. But now that Mr. Trump has made this mandate, that may be the sensible thing to do.
Okay, well, that's my time. I just put it on there because it seemed to me that this was the topic that you had on your agenda, and I didn't.
Well, I didn't have that on my agenda. Not that it's a lot of things I'm aware of that I don't put on the agenda, because I just trying to put on the agenda things that, but this pilotage thing is something that I was in discussion with, and I decided, we will make a launch to try and make the Bahamas wide a pilotage zone where it's already in law where you're required to take pilot, but we got actually implement it and make it happen.
But again, I will preach this I'll beat this drum until the end, because there's no reason why the maritime industry doesn't look exactly like the aviation. And so the piloting thing would be just like the air traffic controllers. You can't come in to the Bahamas and land a plane without them, right?
Well, you have foreign pilots landing their own planes in the Bahamas.
And so without them navigating how to to make sure nobody collides and this type of thing. So it's similar.
No, it's a totally different thing. We have the airport, the airport, the control tower in the airport is similar to harbor control in Nassau. So that's what you're comparing. But we talking about the person bringing the ship in or bringing the plane in is not their traffic controller.
Yes, I understand, but I'm not talking about what they actually do. I'm talking about the fact that they are standalone authority.
Yeah, it's the same thing with
and so they are governed by and have rules and licensing requirements and how people would enroll in the program, and all of that is now legislated.
Yeah, but the pilotage is legislated.
Our laws need updating, and not just by increasing fees. When we increase the fees, we need a means to collect the money, and we need a means to police it.
You mean with the pilotage?
Anything.
Oh yeah, we way behind the 8 ball with that. I mean,
so when you say way behind the 8 ball, you can't. What is happening is what is unfolding with tropical and this increase in fees and the blow that the Bahamian people are going to have to absorb without government intervention and giving like a 10-year agreement to the ship owners, say, you buy a vessel that can operate, blah, blah. There's ways that they could avoid the Bahamian people getting the brunt of whatever Trump is coming down with. And this is only the beginning.
Yeah, but I'm saying to you that tropical shipping is not the be-all and end-all. We could work around tropical shipping since they decide they want to build their ships in China. We could work with companies that
I'm sure they built those ships with some type of long-term expectations. Nobody's going to build $150 million worth of ships without some type of plan for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, they got plans.
I also look at that like...
But they couldn't foresee the U.S. putting a tariff on Chinese vessels.
Allows the Chinese.
They could not foresee, none of us could have foresee the U.S. putting a tariff on Chinese-built vessels. I could never foresee something like that in my wildest dream, right? And the world couldn't foresee it. It's just something that happened because Mr. Trump decided he could do it. He can play dirty. Nothing you can do with that. That's trade war. They're in a trade war right now. So tropical, let's happen to get caught up in it.
All of the things that Mr. Trump is going to do has finished. Yes, he's only been in office with 2 months, and he has just begun.
Yeah, but he had 4 years. He had 4 years to think all these things up. This ain't just came up.
Away from American-built vessels.
Yeah, but
he believes that somehow him putting tariffs on them will cause people to build their vessels in the United States.
Well, that is exactly the whole idea. And it's the same thing with the goods coming in. You feel like now the Americans will now pick up on making these things, and if they could sell it for less than a 25% hike, they could win. And just cut China out. That's the whole idea behind this trade war. So it's the same thing with ships. It's the same thing with cargo coming in, and it's going to be the same thing with anything else that he could have effect to cause China, to cause people to think twice before they use China. And that's what he's trying to do. And he's being successful in what he's doing at this point, especially with the two things he already put in place. Because you got to remember, China makes a lot of products that comes to the U.S., but the U.S. don't make a lot of products that go to China. China make a lot of ships that come to the U.S., but the U.S. don't make a lot of ships that go to China. See, you got to understand the leverage Mr. Trump is using. He uses things to his leverage and his advantage. And I mean, whether it's right or wrong, that's how we see it. He trying to cause the U.S. to be in a better position by putting those stops and measures in place. And one of them just happened to impact a company called Tropical Shipping. So Tropical Shipping is saying to all of their clients, since we got to pay this tax or this tariff when we get back to the U.S. every trip, you have to pass that on to y'all, because if we take that on, we can't provide the service no more.
Wow.
And that's what this whole thing is all about. It's sad. But again, we in the Bahamas, see, the people in Barbados can't do what we can do. Barbados is so far from Florida. Local Bayesians can't say, oh, we can get together and get our own ship built in the U.S. and replace tropical leg. They can't do that because you know how far it is. They're not on the doorstep of Florida. But we in the Bahamas have options. And we got Bahamian people with the capacity, once there's the demand, to expand. But we got to be careful too because, again, our people, the big people who bring in most of the stuff, may not want to use the local boat owners because they may not want to empower them to the extent where they got all this leverage now because they're bringing in almost everything. Right? Mm-hmm. But we got to see how it pan out. I mean, everybody can look out for their own interest, or their best interest. So let me and you get together, see if we can find some money and buy one boat.
That's this. As you said, this may only last 4 years, and this may not happen at all.
Yeah, but let's get 4 years way to win it. We can try to win.
He may exclude tropical. Because the vessels are specifically built for our region.
Yeah, no, you think you care about that? Because if that was the case, Tropical wouldn't have been screaming saying they might have to go up on rates. You think Tropical already tried to see if they could get out of that?
According to the newspaper, they go into D.C. to try to argue their case, you know.
That's fine. They could do that. I don't know if they can get anywhere, but there ain't nothing wrong with them doing that.
So I'm saying, what I'm saying is the government needs to intervene to ensure that the economy doesn't crash because of these large tariffs. And I don't think the tariffs with Mr. Trump is going to end with just these. I mean, it's amazing that
how the economy will crash.
I mean, well, we're going to feel an increase in fees, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you could go and charter vessels that are built outside of China and continue the service coming in. It don't have to stop. The rates don't have to go up. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Thank you so much.
I just said that at the beginning of my tirade that Tropical can do the same.
Well, but Tropical has ships that they can't just allow to sit down
into another route, and they can charter a boat that's not flagged, that's not built in China.
But they don't have another route to go to. My thing is, they bought these ships.
Canada, they go to the south.
Go to the south where?
I just named off all the places where they go.
Yeah, but I'm saying, where are they going to be based?
Technically, are they based there? If they're registered in the United States, are they based there? Come on, you know that.
No, you never been to Tropical Shipping Hub in West Palm Beach. You know how huge that is? You know how much investment they have there? That's their hub. That's their base.
That they charter a vessel to do their business in the Bahamas. So they don't have to give up their base.
Yeah, but they still have mortgage on their vessels. If they're going to pay to charter a vessel and they have a vessel.
Somebody will charter their vessels to go into another route.
But anyway, it ain't as simple as you making it sound. I can't imagine that happening because they gotta have a demand. They gotta have a demand for someone to need their vessel somewhere else.
The fallout to Canada should benefit the Bahamas 110%, and that's what I'm saying. You already have a large container port here. Let the Canadians bring the stuff down, store it the same way they would have in the U.S., then send it down south.
Yeah, but then you gotta be based. You gotta be based in Freeport now to be bringing the things, distributing the things from Freeport.
With that? Ain't nothing wrong with being based in Freeport. Freeport needs some development.
I hear you, and I agree with you. If they want to do that route,
you need to stop just assuming that the Bahamian people could cough up 25% tariffs. There's poor people in this town that can't afford to buy milk and cream.
Yeah, but I'm saying to you, we could get. No, but you're missing the part. But we could get the Bahamians to rise up and take on that role.
It's rising up. It's coming up with an idea that there's other options.
Yes,
darling. The same exact thing I came on and I said to you that hey, Tropical could bareboat or charter a boat that wasn't built in China, and I believe Mr. Trump will then say, well, if the boat was built in some other country, we're going to tariff you too if you're coming to the U.S. So I don't think it's about China alone.
No man, this trade war is between China. This trade war is between the U.S. and China. The the U.S. and Canada, and the U.S. and Mexico. And he might, I don't know if he got any other countries, but I'm sure he ain't got the Bahamas.
No, the Bahamas is totally dependent on import.
Of course.
So the task that he's putting on Mexico, we need to see if we could arrange to get stuff directly from Mexico. We need to see if we could get stuff directly from Canada.
Well, that's
and
fine.
not that we fighting Mr. Trump, is that we can't afford for the Bahamian people to pay a 25% increase in these things. Mr. Roberts can negotiate that. He's found a way to get food from.
Yeah, but he don't even have to do that. All he have to do is use a non-Chinese vessel to continue bringing the stuff by way of the U.S. I mean, that wouldn't raise the tariff or start using some of these Bahamian vessels that really don't go to the U.S. enough because they don't have the demand. You could have Bahamian vessels coming in every day, bringing in stuff, couple vessels a day, bringing in stuff from Florida to keep up the demand of Mr. Roberts. That ain't no big deal. That's something, you got a lot of vessels that ain't.
That instead of just levying fees on the Bahamian public, I think we need to figure out another way and present it to the government. I've read different articles about the brace for the impact of it, but nobody is really coming up with anything tangible to say to the government, this is what needs to happen, because maybe just like if we consider this somewhat of an urgent or emergency type thing, divert some of those funds that you would generally spend on something else and try to invest in maritime. And the only way to do that is to properly regulate it. We have people just ignore the laws. They don't obey them at all.
Absolutely.
And this is a problem.
You have the final.
Want to police it.
You had the final say because we're 6 minutes over time now, so
Okay,
I gotta close. Thank you so much for calling. You're always very inspiring, and we could take this up next week. This should be a big topic.
But
we could
it's on your agenda.
Well, we could put it on the agenda for next week, eh?
Okay then.
Thank you, darling. Take care of yourself.
Bye.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. We're out of time. You've been listening to Maritime Matters. On this show, we talk maritime. Sponsors were Bahamas Maritime Connection and One-on-One Pharmacy. We had one caller who made a very good contribution. I thank you for listening, as always, to Maritime Matters. And with that, we say, Maritime Matters, tick, 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 out.
Watching the ships roll in, then I watch them roll away again. Yeah. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay. I've had nothing to live for, look like nothing.